Hello, this is Sakura. Shima Hougetsu has been listening to Doki Doki Reading Club's recordings more frequently, so I want to host this week's chapters. Please hit like on this video and subscribe to the channel. I wonder if Hougetsu is listening right now. We are covering Volume 10, Chapters 5 and 6. Chapter 5 is about Shimamura's friends, Nagafuji and Hino. Chapter 6 is about our lives, mine and my girlfriend. This didn't seem real until I woke up this morning and noticed Shimamura using my arm as a pillow. Right away, I felt a tinge of warmth on my fingertips that builds up as it makes its way up to my arm, where Shimamura is sleeping, up to my chest where it settles into my heart, as if the gentle warm rays of the morning sun is shining inside my heart. Shimamura, I hope you're listening. Don't forget to invite your number one friend to stay over. It's time to Adashima and chill.
Chapter 5, Frame of 2.
Do you have any dreams for the future? Anything you'd like to accomplish?
Nope. I'm already living my best life.
My question ended up being answered in the most insincere of ways by Nagafuji, currently not wearing her glasses for whatever reason.
Really?
Yep.
That was the end of that, I suppose. Whatever motivation I had to keep arguing with her was quickly zapped away by the tepid atmosphere of the room. We were currently at Nagafuji's place, enjoying the warmth of the kotatsu to the fullest before time came to put it away. As usual, the savory fragrance of grilled meat lingered in the air. Despite us already being in our second year in high school, spending time with her doing nothing in particular still felt just as pleasant as it had all those years ago. And yet, more and more, I'd begun to wonder if it should. A few moments passed, after which I turned towards Nagafuji to ask her yet another question.
Do you ever to think if things are good the way they are?
I see.
You see what?
That you too, Hino, are an adolescent.
Having said that, she lifted up her hands, causing her breast to rise with them. She had changed clothes as soon as we'd gotten here and was currently wearing a t-shirt with a number of visible holes. I was pretty sure that I remembered seeing her buy that exact one when we'd gone shopping together years ago. I'd bought one as well, so given the fact that I didn't get that many opportunities to wear clothing quite so casual, my had spent most of its time folded in my wardrobe, and as a result, looked nowhere near as used.
Well, yeah, of course. I'm going to graduate from high school soon.
I see.
Just stop it already.
There were times when Nagafuji refused to listen to what was said to her, and this was definitely one of them.
No, I'm listening. Let's hear it. What sort of exciting thing do you have to say?
She asked me, cupping her hand around her ear.
I don't, really.
I stayed back with a deep sigh.
It's just... There's nothing wrong with us wasting time doing nothing while we're still young. However, eventually you'll need to start working. And it's not like I can stay here forever either. I sometimes wonder, wouldn't it be much easier if things could stay the way they are forever? Something like that.
I ended up going off on a bit of a runner than the situation itself. What annoyed me the most was It felt like I was the only one who even cared enough to worry about it. Sure enough, Nagafuji pretended to think for a few moments, but as usual, it was immediately obvious that there wasn't anything happening inside her head.
Things have a way of working themselves out in the end.
She stated after a short pause, following it up by doing a wiping motion with her hands, as if wiping away all of her problems. Huh, she then circled around the kotetsu over to me.
I shelved them all for later, and what am I left with? You.
Happy, she added while tapping my shoulder thrice. A million different responses ranging from
What?
to
Shut up!
appear in my mind all at once. Yet as soon as I opened my mouth, they all vanished. She was talking such nonsense that I simply did not know how to refute it. Of course, things weren't that simple. Of course not. And yet,
Sometimes I get jealous of you. You live in a total fantasy land.
Now, I'm gonna blush if you keep praising me like that.
like talking to a brick wall. There really was no rebuking her.
Fantasy Nagafuji. I like the ring it has to it.
Says a lot about you, honestly.
Fantasy Nagafuji.
Don't yell it out loud.
Or maybe Fan Naga for short.
Gosh. Unable to muster the energy necessary to deal with her antics, I ended up turning my back to her. As for Nagafuji, she kept going on for what felt like minutes, trying out all the different possible combinations of the words fantasy and Nagafuji. She sure was something, wasn't she? I sometimes wondered, why exactly was it that we were so close? What was there between us? My attempt at putting those questions into words was met with nothing but droplets of sweat appearing on my forehead.
Hey,
I stared after a while, facing yet another direction.
let's try to do at least 10.
10 more years with Nagafuji. 10 more years to find a reason for us to be. Then again, even if we did get to that point without finding an answer, we'd probably just go for 10 more. My proposal was met with a soft smile. It was as if she had not heard a single word of what I had said.
Good luck.
You're gonna need it too.
We both were.
Chapter 6. The Moon Cradle. I thought I had been ready, but sure enough, the task of unpacking everything we had brought with us turned out to be a much bigger ordeal than either one of us had anticipated. With the dark of the night drawing closer and closer, we had decided to give up for the day and roll out of Hitoma. We did have a bed too, yes, but with it being covered in junk that had yet to be sorted away, there was hardly enough room for a person to sleep on it, let alone two. I wasn't sure if we had been naive or stupid to think that we'd be able to do this all in a single day. Perhaps a bit of both. There we were, the two of us, cycling deeply as we lay in our hastily constructed bedding. I shift my gaze to my side, only to find Shimamura lying next to me, her eyes slightly closed. It was by no means a surprise, and yet I found it so incredibly hard to believe. From today onwards, I would be living with her. The thought of it alone caused me to feel all fluff inside. Was this really happening? We talked about it plenty. Found this place, packed our things, moved here, and yet it still didn't feel real. It felt as if all of this was happening to a different version of myself. all the while the little me was stuck observing it from a distance. The reality of the situation and my feelings were completely out of sync. I had tried to force them to blend together a number of times, but all that doing so would ever distort them was my mind would turn into a whirlpool of white clouds. It had all felt so clear when I had left home, yet the second Shimamura entered the picture, I had found myself lost in the fog. In all honesty, the gift that I had been given here was far more than I had ever dared to hope for. It was fair to say that it would take me quite some time to be able to process the full ramifications of it. I turned to look at Shimamura once more. She opened her eyes, as if having woken up.
Can't sleep.
Huh?
This sudden comment of hers startled me. It generated ripples in my body that forcibly passed all the way to the tips of my fingers.
Your eyes are sparkling.
Were they? Probably. Yeah. Whereas my body felt heavy and tired from all of the work I had done earlier in the day, my mind alone had yet to be given the signal that it was time to turn the lights off.
I can't. No. There's just a lot going through my mind.
I stated after a brief pause.
Huh.
Shimamura mumbled.
In that case, let's talk about those things.
Following this statement, she proceeded to roll around into my direction. A slight smile could be seen having formed on her face.
Hopefully, that'll help you get some sleep.
Sure.
How kind she was. How unbelievably kind. I could have helped but feel like a baby that was being lulled to sleep in her cradle. Back in the day, situations like this had made me feel incredibly nervous, but now, not so much. I wonder, was it possible that I'd ever get so used to it that I once again began longing for those days? So tired that having to wake up would be the biggest of my problems?
So, what's up? What's on your mind?
Pressing my fingers against my lower lip, I went ahead and attempted to make some sense of the river of thoughts flowing through my mind.
It's nothing that special, really. Just, we're really going to be living together from now on. Huh. Whenever I think about you, whenever I want to do something with you, you'll always be there. Whenever I come home, I'll be coming home to you. I just can't stop thinking about how wonderful that is.
When saying it out like that, I was quite surprised how simple it all sounded.
That's pretty normal for you, I feel.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I've gotten one good night of sleep ever since the day I first met you.
Many a sleepless night had been spent thinking about Shimamura in the darkness under my blankets. The sun would rise, and yet, she would still be the only thing on my mind. It was shocking just how large a portion of my thoughts she took. The way things were, you wouldn't have been entirely incorrect classifying me being more Shimamura than I was myself. I said this before, but in all likelihood, I spent more time thinking about her than she did herself.
Sorry about that.
Huh? No, I don't mind.
I mumbled awkwardly. If there was one thing where I had not improved at all over the years, it had to be dealing with these sorts of jokes.
I've gotta say, it's quite incredible how well you're doing with that little sleep.
Am I?
Compared to me, sure.
Shimamura softly closed her eyes, as if having recalled something. Even in the darkness of the night, I could see her shoulders shivering slightly. What was she laughing at? Then again, as long as she was enjoying herself, I guess it didn't matter. That was the end of that, I suppose. What should we do next? And yes, before you say it, I was well aware that the answer to that question was get some sleep. I knew that, yet I wanted to have Shimamura to myself for a little while longer. My tongue painting circles inside my mouth. I tried searching for a new topic.
Did you talk with your parents at all
When?
before you left home?
Oh, yeah,
She stated, as if having remembered something.
just the usual. I spaced out for a bit, but I think that was mostly because I was feeling slightly tired. Oh, and also,
Yes.
a certain cabbage eating sheep was there to wish me goodbye as well.
What?
Don't worry about it, Shimamura laughed. Sure, I wouldn't, but that didn't make what she had said any less ridiculous. Was it a metaphor or something? I thought about it a while before eventually giving up.
What about you, Adachi? Were you able to talk with your parents?
There was something about a particular way she had chosen to word her sentence that made it sound like she was talking to a child. Then again, I suppose that it was at least a little bit deserved.
Not really.
Huh.
It felt as if we had traveled back to our days in high school. I found that it often happened when I was talking with her. I associated those moments with a sense of nostalgia, but also a certain amount of coldness, almost as if someone was pouring ice water inside my chest. That was how I described the majority of my memories.
Your turn to say something, Adachi.
We're doing this in turns?
Furthermore, I was pretty sure that it wasn't. Well, whatever.
Do you usually think about anything before you fall asleep?
Yeah, I think so. Half and half.
Half and half?
Mm. Half of me is thinking, the other half is sleeping.
She stated jokingly.
I guess this time I'm imagining what it would be like living here with you until we're both old ladies with heads full of gray. It's kind of weird, honestly. Also, a little similar to what you're thinking about, I feel.
Ah,
I could feel a line piercing straight through my soul. That line bounced up and down, matching the rhythm of my heart. It might very well be possible that the reason why we had words was so that we could see these sorts of moments of overlapping.
I wonder if that'll happen. If we'll become old women.
Become old women.
She supplied in the form of a song. I loved after its silence once again ensued. Whereas normally, these kinds of moments of silence cause me to panic, this time I found it surprisingly satisfying.
Now then, let's get some sleep. Mm, so that we live long.
Yeah.
Good night.
Before I was able to reply, Shimamura had already closed her eyes. What looked like a faint smile could be seen forming on her face, though then again, it was very much possible that it was simply my interpretation of the situation. She had wished me good night, and the next time we spoke, it would be good morning. Thinking about what that really meant, I could feel my blood flowing within my breast growing hotter and hotter.
Good night.
Then, a few moments later, I had to close my eyes. Which one of us fell asleep first? That only the night knew. The pillow I had in my face buried in it was soft, but far softer than the voice that woke me up.
Adachi.
Following this, she lightly shook my shoulders. I could feel my eyelids flickering as the lights behind my eyes were turned back on. I leapt up.
Oh,
What?
I could see Shimamura staring at me, her eyes wide and large. A strange mix of shock and playfulness could be seen on her face.
I'm surprised.
About what?
I swept the hair away from my eyes and had a look around me.
It was there that the realization at last hit me. Right, we were at our new apartment.
That you woke me up.
What's surprising about that?
The fact that you're up this early.
Right. I guess I am.
She stated while grinning.
It's hard to sleep when you're in this good of a mood.
With that, she turned around and left the bedroom. I could vaguely hear her mention something about breakfast over from the kitchen, or at least, that's what I think she said. I was far too taken aback by her previous statement to pay attention. Shimamura was in a good mood. I had another look around the room just to make sure that this was real. As I did so, I met eyes with a teddy bear Shimamura had left on the bed.
Hey,
An awkward combination of two different types of laughter left my mouth. Still in my pajamas, I made my way over to the living room. Once there, I sat opposite Shimamura. So, this was it. Our new life together. I'd just woken up, and already it felt like I was dreaming. Shimamura looked at me and smiled.
Here you go.
She stated while handing me a sandwich coupled with a tiny milk carton. I accepted the items, stuck a straw into the carton, and took a sip. As the cold liquid entered my stream, I could at last feel my mind starting to clear up.
Once we settle down, we're gonna need to start making breakfast by ourselves.
yeah.
What a pain.
Already she was complaining. I recalled a specific phone call I had received from her mother. Something, please wait at least a day before kicking her in the butt. It went without saying, but we were still in the same spot in terms of movement progress we had been the previous evening. The fridge was likewise empty. The sandwiches we were currently eating had been bought from the train station. For having spent the day on the counter, they still tasted relatively fresh.
These sandwiches are really good, huh?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You don't like them.
My tepid reaction prompted Shimamura to laugh wryly. Panicked, I quickly corrected myself.
No, I mean, they're good.
Please. If you don't like them, that's okay. No need to pretend otherwise.
I do think they're good. I do. It's just... I don't really know how to express that.
I went with didn't know how instead of couldn't be bothered to, for obvious reasons. As if having seen straight through my lie, Shimamura laughed once more.
You don't really concern yourself with what you put in your mouth, do you?
Huh? No, I do. A little, at least.
For example, I wouldn't eat something that I outright disliked. Something that I disliked, what would that be?
Then again, I suppose that there are also those people who do the opposite, who are constantly thinking about food. The world tends to balance itself like that.
Shimamura continued, all the while pulling out a slice of tomato sticking out from her sandwich. Balance. Her, the ordinary, and me, the unordinary. I could only hope that we were capable of balancing each other out. Actually, I take that back. We definitely were. That was the only reason why we had been able to come this far, why we were here now.
It all makes sense now.
I could hear Shimamura mumbling to herself. What made sense? I wanted to know as well.
What do you mean?
Back in high school, you used to work at a Chinese restaurant, yeah?
Yeah?
What better job for someone who doesn't care for food? No risk of you getting tempted to try out a customer's meal.
You were practically made for it, she went on to add. Rather than being a simple joke, it genuinely sounded like she was praising me. This made the sandwich, something that I was already, for the most part, eating out of obligation, taste like empty air in my mouth.
You sure can be quite mysterious at times, Shimamura.
You think?
It didn't take us long to finish eating breakfast. After washing our teeth, I figured that the next order of business would be to resume unpacking. But as it turned out, Shimamura had different plans.
This calls for a short break, I feel.
She stated from the floor. Why was she sitting on the floor? Well, that'd be because we didn't have a sofa yet. Still, a break? Huh? I squatted down next to her, only for Shimamura to lean over to me and tap me on the shoulder.
Hey, Adachi, if it ever looks like I'm trying to slack off, then please, stop me.
Huh?
I tend to fall asleep pretty easily.
This again?
You mustn't.
Okay.
She finally stated before pulling herself up. What had been the point of that? Though I had many questions, the spark of joy I felt in my heart took precedence. We spent the next while going around the smallish apartment, putting together our nest piece by piece. Boxes after boxes we carried, every now and then bumping into one another. The air flowing in through the window we'd opened was nowhere near enough to cool us down, and as yet another drop of sweat dripped down my forehead, I was reminded of the time we had spent on the second floor of the gym. It was there that it had all started, and through many years of hard work, this was a place I had managed to reach. There truly were no words to describe how it felt.
Oh, taking a break already, Adachi?
Shimamura stated as she approached me from behind, carrying in her hand a bundle of clothes.
No, not yet.
I stuttered back. I didn't want her to think that I was lazy or anything. Shimamura walked over to the bedroom, dropped off the clothes, and then walked back to me. All the while I stood there like a dummy trying to find the right words.
How diligent of you. I think that I'm going to, though.
With that, she threw herself onto the sofa. Lying there with her eyes staring lazily at the blank screen of the television, she looked just like the seal plushie she was holding. Though she had tied up her hair to keep it from getting in the way when we had first started, it had long since begun coming loose, and a good portion of it was now resting over her face. Meanwhile, I was still just standing there. Despite her best efforts, the room still remained a jungle of cardboard boxes.
I've been thinking.
She stated towards the ceiling, all the while stroking the seal.
Thinking what?
Moving sure is a pain in the butt.
Right.
Unless we absolutely need to. I'd prefer not moving away from here anytime soon. That's what I've been thinking.
She stated slightly eagerly. She had turned over onto her back at some point, and was now gripping her soles with the seal plushie resting on her stomach.
I guess?
I decided to wait and see if she had more to add, or if that was it. The resulting silence forced Shimamura to awkwardly shift her gaze away, and the placed the plushie on her face.
Oh, I'd appreciate it if you didn't tease me so much, Adachi.
Huh?
What on earth was she talking about this time? Do I need to spell it out? Her muffled voice sounded from behind the plushie. I nodded my head in response, only barely able to stop myself from barking like a seal, which would have been quite ironic, all things considered.
What I mean is,
Yes?
I want to spend many years here. I want this to be a place we can call home.
Her face hidden, all I could see were her lips coming together to form a clumsy smile. Like a wave of warm water gushing in from behind, I could feel my shoulders and brow alike tense up as the realization of what she'd meant finally hit me.
Right.
Right.
Shimamura laughed. I took this opportunity to circle around the sofa and slide in next to her. I'd seemingly done so with too much force, as this caused Shimamura to leap up. Two pair of eyes, one belonging to Shimamura and the other to the seal, stared at me in unison. Actually, enough about the seal. The two of us. Together. Forever. Little by little, the true weight of those words began dawning on me.
I hope that we will get along.
I stated, clumsily, my head weighed downwards. As I did, Shimamura sat back down next to me.
You should be. I can be quite difficult to live with. I've been told. A childish smile appeared on her face following this statement. I could feel a flame being ignited inside me, filling me with pleasant warmth which quickly spread throughout my body. Whatever it was that she wanted, that she needed, I was ready to accommodate. I had been for a long, long time now.
How about we start with you fetching me some tea?
Right away.
I leapt up and dashed towards the kitchen.
Oh, I was just joking.
I knew that, and yet I ran. Why? Because I was embarrassed. Embarrassed that I had once again found myself like a dog in front of her. This was it now. From now on, whenever I heard the word home, this was the place that ought to come to mind. Surely that would take some getting used to. Those were the sorts of thoughts that flowed through my mind as I sat there in the bathtub, staring at my arms as they waved effortlessly through the water. It was as if the whole thing was a little off, like someone had forgot to adjust it, ever so slightly. My heart was being torn in two directions at once. From one side, by hope, and the other, anxiety. From today onwards, I would be coming home to Shimamura. We'd share so much, including this bathtub. No, bad thought. I decided to get up before the bath made me go completely dizzy. I put on some clothes, wrapped a towel around my head, and headed over to the living room. Shimamura was not there, and yet I heard something. I approached the noise, only to find Shimamura sitting in front of our bedroom closet. Why? What was she looking for? I circled around her. Oh, and there it was. In her hand, Shimamura was holding my blue china dress. I wasn't even wearing the thing, yet Seeing her run the palm of her hand across the textured cloth, I couldn't help but find my cheeks growing warm.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I just felt like reliving the past.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Even if I didn't want to admit it, there was no denying that this dress was part of our past. So many memories were tied to it. From walking around the town to tossing that darn boomerang around. It had been quite common for her to tell me to wear it when it had still fit, though, for obvious reasons, doing so became increasingly difficult as the years went by. Now, back to the present. Still holding the dress, I could see Shimamura's gaze bouncing up and down, as if she was scanning me.
Why don't you try putting it on? For old time's sake.
Huh?
Then again, I suppose that those old times aren't actually quite so old. You do wear it every Christmas, after all.
Right.
Why had that become a tradition between us again? Well, I say that, but I'd actually been the one to suggest it. I distinctly remember doing it, but not my motivation. As the years passed by, those sorts of details tended to get lost in time.
How about you wear it for a change?
I mumbled awkwardly while tugging my sleeve. Much to my surprise, Shimamura didn't outright reject this idea, but rather seemed to be genuinely considering it. Her gaze shifted upwards, which I took as a sign of her imagining what she might look like wearing the dress. Was it just me, or would a different color combination perhaps suit her better? In my mind, at least, warm colors were more of a Shimamura's thing.
No, I don't think it would work. When I think China dress, you're what comes to mind.
Huh?
And in my opinion, that's absolutely a worthwhile connection to maintain.
With that, she closed the closet and headed over to the sofa. What exactly did she mean by that? Personally, I didn't really get it. Then again, it was very much like her to get obsessed over seemingly minor stuff like that. As I finished drying my hair, I could see Shimamura lazily staring at me in the corner of my eye.
Tired?
You bet.
Though she was doing an admirable job keeping herself from yawning, her droopy eyelids exposed the truth. She was almost like a child in that way. Quite adorable.
Tomorrow should be easier, though. We got most of it done already.
The way she elongated her sentences there, simply adorable. Then again, when wasn't she adorable? Never. The answer was never.
Wanna go to bed early?
Sure.
Turning off the lights in the living room, the two of us made our way over to the bedroom. Unlike yesterday, we actually had a proper bed this time. It was a large bed, a single bed, a bed in which both of us would sleep. Together. Just thinking about it, I could feel the tips of my fingers starting to tingle. My eyes were drawing circles amidst the darkness. As for Shimamura, her eyes were half closed, showing no signs of such worries. The sealed toy had been put away for the night, and now stared at us from the tiny desk in the corner of the room. I wonder, did that thing have a name? Probably. Next to the seal sat a bear pin. It was the same one that had previously been attached to Shimamura's bag. I could only assume that there was some significance in the fact that she had gone out of her way to place the two so close to each other. Meanwhile, Shimamura had already gotten in bed and was currently adjusting her pillow.
It's not really necessary for us to match our bedtimes,
She stated. It was as if she felt bad for dragging me into bed with her. Not that she needed to.
Might as well. When you go to bed, I have nothing to do.
Right. I guess that makes sense.
With that, Shimamura flipped over and placed her head onto the pillow with a satisfied grunt.
Please forgive me for being such a sleepyhead.
Huh? Sure. I forgive you.
Thank you.
What a bizarre exchange. Meanwhile, I could see Shimamura burrowing deeper underneath the blankets. It looked like she was ready to fall asleep any second now. I followed in suit, though if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't feeling tired in the slightest. Both my arms and my legs were burning hot, making any attempts at relaxation utterly futile. I ended up having to adjust the pillow multiple times, all in order to find a position that felt even remotely comfortable.
Ooh, let's go buy groceries tomorrow. It's sad looking at the empty fridge.
Shimamura suggested all of a sudden. To this, all I had to comment was a simple,
Yes.
this was real. We were actually living together. I'd gone through the trouble of drying my hair, yet already I could feel those efforts going to waste as my scalp grew burning hot. Before closing her eyes, Shimamura offered me one last look.
Good night.
Good night.
Her voice was calm, gentle. It felt as if the palm of my hand was being softly tickled. My breath was soon joined by quiet snoring. I shifted my gaze next to me and, oh, there she was, lying on her side, unmoving. Her hair rested gently on top of her ear, heaving ever so slightly in the rhythm of her breathing. I'm not sure why, but there was something about the sight that caused my chest to tighten.
This still feels like a special event of some kind.
I muttered out loud, but there was no response. Shimamura's faint snores, combined with the slight heaving of her shoulders, made it clear that she had already entered the world of dreams. I recalled her mentioning how it only took her 5 minutes to fall asleep, but here she had only lasted 3, and even that is being modest. There was a clear contrast between that and me, lying in darkness for hours, just thinking about her. That made me wonder, what did Shimamura usually think about as she fell asleep? Had her final conscious thought been her thinking about our shopping trip tomorrow? It sure would have been nice if that was the case. A few moments later, I also decided to get some sleep. I relaxed my shoulders, extended my arms, and let out a long sigh. There was a part of me that wanted to stay like this forever. A part that felt like a moment with Shimamura lying next to me was too good to waste sleeping. That said, there was always tomorrow, tomorrow, as well as the day after that, from now on. Every single one of my days would be with Shimamura.
Adachinabi, take us to the supermarket.
It's straight from here, I think.
Nice.
We'd been around the city a few times, mainly to get the keys to our apartment. But as far as regular outings went, this was our first one. We'd purposefully chosen a place near both of our jobs, and as such, it was no wonder that the buildings around us were far taller than what we were used to.
The people we passed on our way to the store were all quite young. If I had to guess, the university located nearby likely had something to do with it. Speaking of young people and school, there was one thing that made this walk feel worlds apart from when we had been students. That was the fact that at the end of it, we would not need to part ways. We were currently holding hands as if it was the most natural thing in the world to do. Though it was still early in year, in the warmth of Shimamura's hand, I could feel the flowers of summer starting to bloom. It was about an hour and a half on train between here and our hometown. Still relatively close, but at the same time, far enough away for us not to hear our parents' voices or run into someone we knew. I'd leave the house with Shimamura and return there with her. Part ways would we never again.
Say, Adachi, what do you want to buy?
Bread, I guess?
Bread, right. That's always good to have. Anything else?
Water?
I kind of thought you might say that.
Shimamura laughed as if her wish had come true. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. On one hand, I was happy that she knew me so well, but on the other, that was an awfully boring answer to give, wasn't it?
You're like a plant that eats bread, Adachi.
Huh?
I guess I kinda saw what she meant. I went ahead and imagined what a plant like that might look like.
Ugh. That's some nightmare fuel.
And yet, you've managed to grow up all right. That's a real achievement, I say.
With that, Shimamura extended her hand and placed it on my head. After all these years, I was still slightly taller than her. At least, that was how it was in reality. In my mind, I always felt as if the height gap between us was reversed.
That's...
I started to say, but stopped as my throat began hurting.
That's what?
Shimamura playfully urged me to continue. She didn't actually do it, but it really did feel like her hand was being placed against my cheek. My shoulders shivered, and my hair fell on my face, blocking a part of my vision.
That's because of my mother, I think.
It was so difficult to force those words out. I was like a child, unable to be honest. The woman wasn't here, obviously, yet for some reason, I still found myself averting my gaze. Walking like that for a few moments, I glanced at Shimamura, and our eyes met.
Huh.
That was all the comment I got. Nothing nearly as interesting happened for the rest of our grocery trip. Shimamura carried the basket, and I tossed stuff into it at random. I do have to say, though, it was quite special the way she acted as we reached the produce section. Staring at the colorful fruits and vegetables seemed to bring her genuine joy. It did for me as well. Only in my case, that joy was experienced secondhand. If I had to sum up all that I wanted in life in a single experience, then this was it. We decided to drop by a convenience store on our way home. One of the items she bought there was a magazine. It wasn't the one she read regularly, and when I asked her why she'd bought it, this was the answer I got.
I saw a name I recognized on the cover.
She proceeded to flip through the pages until stopping on a double spread. Although seemingly meaningful to her, to me, the image said nothing.
Oh, wow. It really is her.
The page contained a large picture of a girl who looked like she was around high school age. Her clothes didn't fit properly, and her eyes could practically be seen spinning, despite it being still a photo. Her body build was best described as petite, and as for her hair, it had been tied up with a large, strange-looking clip. The clip read, "In training."
You know her?
Hmm? Yeah, I do.
Shimamura laughed. What was so funny?
I had no idea she was this famous.
Skimming the article, it appeared that the girl was a potter. Shimamura knew her? How? From where? Moreover, what was the relationship between them like?
Mhm.
What's the matter, Adachi?
She asked, pressing her finger against my lips. Had I started pouting? Honestly, I might have had.
Where do you know her from?
The girl was clearly much younger than she was. Where could they possibly have met? Before I knew it, my feelings of fear and anxiety had begun seeping into my mind.
From the countryside.
Shimamura stated flippantly, almost as if surprised that I'd even be asking her such a silly question. A few seconds later, the expression on her face changed and she pinched my lips.
What to do? I'm sure that you're getting the wrong idea, but that's also kind of fun in its own way.
Get the wrong idea about what? I tried saying something, but as my lips were still pinched shut, no words could come out. For something that I assumed was meant to be a joke, she sure was doing this with quite a force.
Anyway, yeah, don't be so down.
Again, I was unable to reply to her. Little by little, it was starting to become genuinely difficult for me to breathe.
Mhm.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Finally, she noticed what she was doing, and my lips were at last set free. Following this, Shimamura proceeded to stare intensely at my face. What? What was so interesting about me? As it turned out, I didn't end up having to wait for long to receive an answer.
I'm starting to get used to you wearing glasses.
They look great on you, she added while running her fingers across their frame. At some point, I'd begun wearing glasses around the house. I'd gone out of my way to pick ones that were blue in their color. Why? Because a certain fortune teller had told me that blue was my lucky color. Done staring at me, Shimamura took the glasses off my face and tried them on. She moved her head around slightly, as if asking me for an opinion.
You look great.
Thanks, Adachi. You're so good at flattery.
She laughed while giving the glasses back to me. I put them in their case, and as I did, Shimamura closed the magazine.
Starting tomorrow, we're both gonna be working jobs, huh?
This statement of hers was followed by a deep sigh.
A job.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked part-time before, but this feels a whole lot more serious.
That was true. Back in university, she'd had a part-time job. I'd had one as well. And the money we had earned together was what had become the foundation of our new life. If you asked the high school me to tell you how I'd spend the money I earned working at that Chinese restaurant, not in a million years would this have been the answer I gave you. I'd only started that job to kill time. And yet, years later, those efforts had obtained a new whole meaning. The future had changed a past. Although an obvious contradiction, it did feel like there was something there.
Your salary is higher than mine, right? I'm pretty sure that it is.
Shimamura stated.
I guess that means you'll be the one supporting this household then.
She then patted me on the shoulder. Indeed, we'd chosen to work separate jobs. It just seemed easier that way, mostly because it would be impossible for me to concentrate otherwise.
Work hard, earn lots of money, and then we can...
You can travel overseas.
Exactly.
A certain glimmer could be seen in Shimamura's eyes as she said that. Though I couldn't confirm it, I had to assume that the same was true for me. This was a dream that both of us shared, an ambition that tied our hearts together.
I get the feeling that you're just a better person than me all around.
Huh? No, not at all.
No. I shook my head. I genuinely did not think so. It continued to amaze me just how awkward, clumsy, and all around useless I was in her presence.
I mean, you did get better grades in school. You were also the class beauty.
I'm a little jealous, she added while spinning her finger in front of her nose. The part about our grades might have been true, but the rest?
You're definitely the prettier one. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No, I mean it. I do.
I, for some reason, sprang up, almost accidentally headbutting Shimamura. I looked at her, and yeah, she was still just as pretty as ever. I could feel my face growing all sorts of hot.
I decided to say the following while I was still able to get the words out.
In my mind, you're the most beautiful person that exists.
She mumbled, her expression remaining stiff. Was she feeling embarrassed, perhaps? It wasn't often that she did.
Well, not that I dislike being called pretty.
Beautiful, she added in English while running her fingers through her hair. She then proceeded to stare at me. We were close, so close that our foreheads nearly touched. In the center of my vision, rings of light began forming. What happened next? Well, let me tell you.
Eh!
Shimamura licked the tip of my nose. This was the last thing I had expected to happen, and you can easily imagine my surprise. As for Shimamura, she proceeded to smack her lips a few times, almost as if she had just tried out new food and was deciding whether she liked it or not.
Tastes like makeup.
That makes sense.
I could feel the tip of my nose starting to tingle. It was as if a bridge of some sort had been formed between the air and Shimamura's saliva, allowing me to sense each and every individual particle floating about. Seeing this, Shimamura giggled. That alone was suddenly enough to make this experience a net positive. Even so, I couldn't help but wonder, what was it that had led her to do that? My fingers began drumming against the bottom of my feet, almost as if I was playing the piano or something. Meanwhile, I could see Shimamura turning her head to look behind her, still giggling slightly. I followed her gaze, only to find her staring at the entrance hall through the open door.
What?
Oh, nothing. I just had this weird feeling that some tiny creature was spying on us. I guess that's the result of me living with my sister for all those years. It's like sometimes I hear these tiny footsteps in the distance, but when I go to check, there's no one there.
The slight sadness that can be heard in her voice did not escape my ears. While Shimamura tended not to let her feelings show, over the years, I had become increasingly skillful at picking up on the tiniest nuances of her behavior. The fact that it had taken me so long was likely a result of ignoring the side of human interactions for the most of my life. Shimamura's little sister, the girl most likely despised me. I couldn't blame her. Were I in her shoes, I'd likely hate myself as well. It had been me who'd suggested that we move to live together. Shimamura had agreed, yet at times like this, I couldn't help but wonder if she'd really meant it.
Do you ever miss home?
Well, actually, yeah. I suppose I do, sometimes.
She stated with a wry smile on her face.
Even though I'm here for you?
I knew this was an awkward question to ask, yet I asked it anyway.
Yep, even though you're here for me.
Shimamura put in no effort to soften the blow. She let me know exactly how she felt. Nothing more, nothing less.
Being with you and being with my family fill different parts in my heart.
This part is you, she added while slightly tapping her chest. I found myself staring intensely at the part that she touched, for no special reason, especially not because of that.
My heart is full of holes. You fill some of them. My family fills some. Others are for dogs, funny-looking animals, and all sorts of things. I guess I'm a pretty greedy person that way.
She counted along with her fingers. I did the same behind my back, but unlike her, I only lifted a single finger. For me, all I needed was Shimamura. My hair was like a sliced apple, and she was the other half, the one that made me whole. And yet, Shimamura was different. Her head was full of holes, just like the surface of the moon, perfectly fitting her name.
I guess you don't want to join my family, huh, Adachi?
I didn't have to think long. I didn't think a lot about my answer.
I'd rather be the most important person in your life.
Figured.
A certain bit of thoughtfulness could be heard in her laugh, reminding me of the time when I had first made that statement. After a brief pause, Shimamura drew near to me and lightly placed her fingers slightly below my throat.
Don't worry. You are the most important person in my life. You always will be.
Shimamura had effectively stopped me from breathing. With her fingers, with her mouth, with her words, with her kindness, with her whim, and yes, with her love.
Mm.
Well, I'm sure that I'll get used to this feeling soon enough. Human hearts are quite adaptable like that.
She stated before glancing behind her.
Although, I do have a feeling that a certain tiny being will be paying us visits for years to come, whether we like it or not.
She then got up, headed over to the fridge, and returned holding 2 cans of juice. One was for her, and the other one for me.
I warn you, it's still warm.
I took the can and ran my fingers across its surface. Yeah, no kidding.
Wanna raise a toast to our new home?
Shimamura asked with a wide grin on her face.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
I certainly raised an eyebrow at the store when she had tossed this into our shopping cart. But I guess this explained it. The drink in question was a brand of uncarbonated peach juice. Though we were old enough to drink alcohol, we never really did. Why? Because Shimamura simply couldn't keep it in. We popped the lids of our drinks and slowly brought the cans together.
What do you want to drink to?
You.
I didn't have to think twice about my answer. To this, Shimamura offered an embarrassed giggle.
Well, in that case, I suppose I'll drink to you.
She then took a sip of her drink. In our universe, was this something I was going to complain about? Although if I had to say it, I would have preferred if she hadn't sounded like she was half joking. Well, whatever. I brought the can to my lips and had a sip myself. Like rain running down a road right by the summer sun, the liquid poured into my mouth.
Do you like it?
It's very sweet.
I felt like this was a pretty normal thing to say. And yet, for some reason, it was enough to cause Shimamura to burst out laughing.
What's so funny?
I just wasn't expecting you to say that.
Huh? I had another look at the can. Yeah, it was peach juice, alright. Wasn't it supposed to taste sweet?
You're normally totally indifferent towards food, so it's a real shock seeing you react this way.
Am I? Actually, yeah, I think I might be.
It's also funny how the way you choose to describe something is by saying that it's sweet before anything else.
Oh?
I tilted my head. Truth to be told, that was mostly because I simply didn't care about the drink. Of course, I wasn't going to phrase it like that. I wanted to make her blush. I wanted to tug on her heartstrings.
That's because I only care about you, Shimamura.
I'm aware.
She stated back, her expression remaining perfectly calm. Then, with the can on her lips, she proceeded to stare me right into the eyes. I could feel the bits of sweetness that had remained on my tongue transforming into something entirely different and shooting straight into my eyes and my ears. Like her, I also took a sip of my drink. In my case, I nearly spilled the liquid all over myself. Witnessing my reaction, the smile of satisfaction rose on Shimamura's face. These sorts of innocent quarrels were quite common between us, and without fail, it was always Shimamura who ended up coming out on top. With the juice cans now empty, Shimamura patted her lap as if inviting me to rest my head on it. This too was something that happened quite often. The way in which she did it always made me think of a person calling me for a dog to sit on their lap. Not that I ever refused her invitation, of course. As I rolled out onto the sofa, I was once again reminded of how much longer my hair was compared to just a few years ago.
This feels
Feels what?
perfect.
Burying my head into Shimamura's thighs, I truly did feel like there was nothing else in this world that I could possibly have asked for.
Maybe tomorrow? I'll ask you to do this for me.
I could feel Shimamura's scent floating along my neck, slowly wrapping around each and every individual strand of my hair. If I was forced to give a physical shape to the concept of happiness, then this might very well have been what I'd land on.
It's so warm.
Well, it is spring.
Warmer than spring.
Warm, warm like blood flowing, melting away the snow still remaining.
Right. I guess I'm feeling pretty warm, too.
Shimamura stated in a soft tone of voice as she ran her hand across my back. The thought of her enjoying this moment just as much as I did brought me unimaginable joy. My heart had been pounding like crazy not all that long ago, but now it had started calming down, slowly falling into a stable rhythm. It truly did feel like I could spend an eternity like this, an eternity with her. Meanwhile, Shimamura had fallen completely silent. Did she perhaps feel like no words were necessary? I certainly understood the sentiment, but at the same time, I did also want to hear her voice. I shifted my gaze, and doing so, found out the real reason behind her silence.
Huh. She's asleep.
It, in fact, appeared that Shimamura had fallen asleep sitting. Resting on her lap, there wasn't much I could do other than watch. I traced the outline of her hair with my eyes, and as I did so, my mind began growing blank. Not because I felt tired, mind you, but because I felt satisfied. It was as if I was sitting under a giant leaf that protected me from the sun, soothed by a gentle breeze, the likes of which could not exist in this world, rocked back and forth by the waves of eternity. This had become my new normal. When I woke up in the morning, Shimamura would be there. When I went out to buy groceries, I'd do so with Shimamura. Whether my eyes were closed or open, she'd always be by my side. By my side.
Ah,
Or rather,
yes.
this was true happiness.
Say, Adachi, when do you want to go to bed?
Huh? Whenever's fine.
It was currently later in the evening. We had been sitting around, talking this and that about which stores were located nearby and what have you, when all of a sudden, Shimamura had asked me this.
Whenever, huh?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I say that we go to bed right now.
She proclaimed before jumping up and walking towards the bedroom with her arms swinging. Had that really been necessary? Moreover, how was she already feeling tired again? Didn't she just take a nap? Shoving those thoughts aside for now, I followed after her.
Oh, I didn't think you were serious.
Shimamura stated, after noticing me entering the bedroom.
Well, it's not like I.
Have much else to do, right?
Yeah, without you, that is.
Even if I did, it was difficult for me to imagine prioritizing anything over getting to spend time with Shimamura. To this, she nodded her head.
Right. Once we start working, it's possible that our sleep schedules will no longer align. Might as well make the best out of it while we still can.
Spot on. It went without saying, but having a job meant getting to spend less time with her. The moments we did get to spend together needed to be valued. Actually, when you put it that way, it kind of made me sound like a dog, desperately running after her master, didn't it?
Oh, I need to use the bathroom.
With that, Shimamura suddenly changed directions. I alone was left waiting for her in the bedroom. For some insane reason that not even I could explain, I figured that the best line of action was to hop onto the bed and sit down on my knees with my back perfectly straightened out. Yeah, I don't know. The right side of the bed had been given to me, and the left side to Shimamura, possibly to match our dominant arms. The right side was also where the window was located in this room. The curtains were closed, and glancing at them, I could only imagine the night scenery that existed on the other side of them.
Why are you sitting like that?
Those were Shimamura's words to me as she returned. Fair enough.
Oh, no reason.
So, you just naturally have good posture then? That's brilliant.
Pretending to sound like some kind of an old lady, Shimamura likewise sat down on the bed. There we were, sitting face to face. Already, I could feel my eyes starting to spin as memories and imaginations of all sorts flooded my mind. My ears were growing hotter by the second.
I'm so happy to start living with you.
I suddenly yelled. Why exactly did I do that? Well, I'd like to say that it was because it felt appropriate for the moment, but really, it was mostly because I panicked.
The pleasure is all mine.
Appearing slightly taken aback by my sudden outburst, Shimamura grabbed her side of the blanket and pulled it over herself. As she did so, I could feel her legs drawing near mine.
I meant it, like, casually.
Of course, of course.
It was obvious why I was talking weird, but why was it spreading to Shimamura as well?
Oh, I forgot.
Realizing that the lights were still on, Shimamura rolled out of bed. We'd been so close. Yet now, we once more grew distant.
Better turn the lights off.
Right.
She clicked the switch, and with it, the darkness of the night fell upon us. Tap, tap, tap. That was the sound her feet made as she ran back over to me. She then hopped onto the bed and buried her head into the pillow. For the next few moments, I simply stared at her before finally opening my mouth.
Say, Shimamura, you're happy when you sleep, right?
I guess. I've never slept in front of a mirror, so I wouldn't know.
She stated, all the while pinching her cheeks and pulling them upwards to form a smile.
I suppose I find it a relief, like I made it safe through another day? Something like that.
That makes sense. Myself, I'm too worried thinking about what tomorrow will bring with it.
Should I do this thing with her, or perhaps that thing? Those were the kinds of thoughts that filled my mind from day to day.
Tomorrow, huh? I think tomorrow's laundry day.
Ahaha, aha, she laughed, although it quickly dissolved into a sigh.
Ugh. We also need to make some food, and go shopping, and go to work. Really, there are a whole lot of things you need to do in life, huh? Let's try to get some sleep so we can be ready for all of them, alright?
It sounded like just the thought of it had made her exhausted. Once again, our eyes met. Like two children having a staring contest, neither of us was willing to be the first to look away. I filled the entirety of her vision, and so did she mine. It was as if a new world had been created in that instant, just for the two of us.
There.
At last, breaking the stalemate, Shimamura suddenly reached for my head and patted it. Half of my field of vision became blocked by the shadow cast by her arm.
What?
You were staring at me, so I kind of figured that maybe you wanted me to do this.
Really? A brief pout formed on my face, but quickly vanished mere moments later.
I didn't. But now I do.
That sounds almost philosophical.
Very complex, she added. Her voice sounded so beautiful, like a perfectly even ripple being cast in a still lake. With every minute that passed by, I could feel us melding as one with the night. This was it. This is what us living together truly meant. Softly, cheerfully, I could feel myself sinking into her. Shimamura was the greatest mattress in the world. Huh? Was that really the best metaphor I could come up with? Something soft. Tofu? Sponge? No, never mind. Let's just get back to reality already. Shimamura's arm still remained pressed against my body. We were connected as one. I was a person incapable of living with others. Very, very few of the people I'd met over the years had shown me any sort of love. For the most part, the blame lay entirely with me. I simply wasn't interested in them, and even if I were, by the time I was able to bring myself to cross that bridge, we had already drifted apart. I'd lived my entire life simply walking forward from day to day, never stopping to chase after something. That was truly a terrible aspect of my personality. And yet, it would never be fixed. Why? Because my dreams had already come true. I was a person incapable of living with others. A person incapable of living with anyone but Shimamura. My dreams, my wishes for the future, my sources of joy and delight all proved this to be true. My very being was defined by her. Me, a person incapable of living with anyone but Shimamura, had fallen in love with her. And those feelings had been reciprocated. Truly, how lucky I was.
Shimamura,
Yes?
I love you.
I whispered softly, accompanied by the sensation of all the blood in my veins suddenly starting to flow in reverse. Shimamura stared at me for a few moments, her eyes wide, before finally breaking into a grin. The sound came straight from her heart. And so, lying in the cradle called Shimamura, another day came to an end. The journey might have been long, but at last, I had reached happiness.
Hashtag Doki destroys matter.
Are you Where the